What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down a wide receiver football IQ quiz to test your knowledge of the position. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver and would like a daily gym and on-field workout schedule to follow, check out that very first link in the description below for our ultimate 8-week wide receiver workout plan. It's 2 months of daily workouts for you to do with the exact sets and reps all mapped out for you, and we give you examples of all the on-field drills and gym workouts wide receivers specifically should be doing. So check out that very first link in the description below if you're interested in that, fellas. Let's get started with this video. So first things first, I went this wide receiver football IQ quiz. If you're not familiar with our quiz style videos, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a pre-snap look, and then I'm going to ask you guys a series of questions about the look, give you a chance to pause the video, think about your answer, write down your answer, whatever you want to do, and then we're going to break it down and talk about why you were right or why you were wrong, okay? So now, first example here is going to be how would a wide receiver run a fade route? So just like a fade route, a fly route, a deep four-vert fade downfield versus this press coverage look. So I want you to tell me what the leverage is of the DB, how close or how far he is, and how would you guys run a fade route versus this look. So you guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So this question is going to be kind of a two-part question, if you will, or actually, I'm just going to show the example, and this wide receiver didn't run this correctly, and I want you to think about why he didn't run this correctly while I'm breaking this thing down. So he comes off the ball here, and he obviously gets locked up, and he just kind of runs to the outside. DB's able to make a play, make him mistime the jump, and this pretty much doesn't have any separation off the line, right? So I want you to think about why while I'm explaining this. So number one thing, let's talk about what this DB's lined up like, and that's what I asked you as part of the question. So obviously he's lined up inside leverage. You could tell he's inside leverage because if his inside foot is to like the right of me, if you will, if the middle of his body is even with my front foot, that's how we know he's inside leverage. So when a DB's lined up inside leverage or inside shade, his goal is to prevent the slant route. His goal is to prevent the dig, the post, anything to the inside. Now, the second thing I asked you to identify was how close or how far was he? Is he right up on the line? Is he 5 yards away? Is he about maybe a yard away? He's about a yard away. So the reason why we have to know those things is that's how you structure your release off the ball. So if you guys said how he should run this fade is close the distance and threaten his leverage to the inside by maybe making a jab, making a crossover move, and then working outside, that would be 100% correct. Now, not all wide receivers do that, though. I think a lot of you guys understand that that's what you're supposed to do off the line. If I ask any wide receiver, that's usually the answer they give me, but not everybody does that. A lot of people do what this wide receiver does, and that's just try to beat him with speed and just run around him. Guys, we cannot do that. His whole goal being inside leverage. Take away the inside route and force you to his help. Now, where's his help? Does he have safety help when he's inside shade? No, his help is going to be the sideline. He wants to force you to the sideline and make this throw incredibly challenging for the quarterback. Because if the quarterback misses and puts it inside, that's a pick. And if he throws it too wide to the outside, that's out of bounds. And he doesn't have much room to do either of those things, okay? So we have to attack his leverage. If we just rely on my speed, this is what's going to happen. That is not enough room for my quarterback to throw me open. So if he would have came off the ball and he would have at least just stepped to the inside, make him think we're running a slant, force him to stay honest to his leverage, that gives you so much more room to the outside to make something happen. But we just run, fellas, this is going to be the end result. So that's kind of around what you guys were thinking. That would be 100% correct. I'm hoping that most of you got that, but you guys have to actually do that when you're running a fade. It's so often guys see all this green grass out there and they think, oh, great, I could just go run. This DB will get hands and squeeze you to that sideline. That is his responsibility when he's inside shade. That's why it's important to know the coverage, guys. That's why we do these types of videos, so you guys can familiarize yourself with these different looks off the line and just what you can do to beat that coverage, okay? So now, what I want you to think about on this example, second example here, this is going to be just a pre-snap look. I want you guys to think about how would you run a slant route versus head-up press coverage. So how would you run a slant versus head-up press coverage? So that's his leverage. That's the coverage he's got. He's pressed up right up on the line of scrimmage. How would you run a slant versus this DB? So you guys go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So he's head up coverage, right? So that tells me that I could go probably inside or I could go outside as a wide receiver, right? If I'm running a route different from a slant. That's why, again, it's important to identify the leverage of the DB and the distance on the DB. So again, he's not head up in maybe 2 to 3 yards, so I don't have to close any space with him. He is right up on the line of scrimmage, not giving me any room to breathe. Now, he's not inside shade, though. He's not outside shade. So if I had to run a route like a post, I would probably take the inside release. I'd set him up outside, give him a move outside, and take the inside release. Same idea for a slant, fellas. You wouldn't need to do a diamond release where you attack his outside shoulder for 3 steps. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that. That's when our goal is to try to get his hips to flip to a fade, and then you slip underneath him. Now, could that work? Yeah, that could absolutely work, but I just don't think it's necessary. I think there's an easier way. You guys want to go the path of least resistance when it comes to running routes. So what you would do is exactly how this wide receiver plays it. He makes this DB miss laterally. He takes 3 steps on the slant for timing and then wins. So again, when he's head up, this type of release can work. When he's inside shade, this release would not work, and I would recommend doing the diamond release. Because again, you see, when we don't have much room to operate, and he's crowding the line of scrimmage, you have to make this DB miss laterally. So you see how he gives him this move, but he steps wide outside of his frame, hips and shoulders sell to the outside, but it's operating behind the line of scrimmage because we don't need to close any space with the DB. Because he's not off. We just need to make him miss. So if we can threaten him to the outside, step outside the frame, his hips, his shoulders step to the outside, that gets him to jump. And now I got this free 3-step slant, 1, 2, 3 inside, and I got this easy timing with the QB. It's all about timing and it's all about spacing. So after you make that DB miss to the outside, we cannot give him a move, and then we cannot drift inside and run my slant because then the spacing is off. We have to get skinny, we have to get vertical for 3 steps to still to maintain the timing. But that's how you guys would run it. That's how I recommend running it. Could the diamond release work? Absolutely. But if that's similar to what you guys said, make him miss lateral, take the inside release and get skinny, that would be correct. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by that wide receiver with his release and keeping timing with his quarterback. Okay, so now this example here, I want to talk about, so what do you guys think? So this is going to be more so top of the route based. If this wide receiver is running a 10-yard out route, okay, so 10-yard out, and let's say this DB jumps to the outside, so he's outside leverage, he takes away the outside, and you have to take an inside release on a 10-yard out, but you cannot restack. So what restacking means is when the wide receiver is over the top of the DB, like the DB is trailing us, and he is trailing our back hip, so we're stacked over the top of him on my route. Usually easy to use, or not easy to use, but you use this on routes that are like deeper than 5 yards, right? So like a 10-yard out, a corner, a post, you want to try to stack the best you can. So what if we take an inside release, but you can't stack? This DB is right next to you, right on your hip. What do you do at the top of the route to get open on an out route when that DB is right on your hip and you have to run a 10-yard out with an inside release, okay? So you guys go ahead and pause the video and think about your answers. So pause the video. All right, let's break this thing down. So if you guys said you would use a throw-by move, that would be correct. Not lean into him, not attack his blind spot, not a rocker step. A throw-by move is the move to use. So let's play this thing full speed, then we'll break it down. So obviously the goal on every single press coverage route, fellas, is to make sure that we stack the DB. If I take an inside release on an out route, my goal is to get directly over the top of him. He is trailing my back hip, so I could give him maybe a hard fake inside, a rocker step, like a 1-2 at the break, get him to jump, and I got all this space to the outside. But if I can't do that, that's okay. Sometimes that happens. You guys have to understand that wide receivers, we have a plan to operate off the ball, and sometimes that plan doesn't work. So we have to be able to react. So we take this inside release, and he gets up to the break point. So this is where the throw-by move happens. We can't stack. This is the break point. We have to break right there. So we put the brakes on with my hips. I sit low. You swat by at the back of his. I personally like swatting by at the back of the hip or the shoulder. I feel those are easier points of control. This wide receiver swats by at the back of the arm. I think that's just a little risky because I feel like the arm is easier to miss. Not to say it couldn't work, but I personally would recommend the shoulder or the hip. But he swats him by. He slips back underneath, and guess what? He's got all this room to the outside. outside. That's another reason, again, fellas, we talked about this earlier in the video. We can't force the release. We can't force the outside release and try to break if this DB's outside leverage are trying to jump to the outside and take it away. Take what the DB gives you and leave yourself spacing. And that throw by move is a great way to do it. So this is a great example of that by this wide receiver. Great job throwing by and winning on that break. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like an 8-week wide receiver gym and field workout schedule, everything wide receivers should be doing in the offseason, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to get you on that. I'll see you guys next time.